This presentation gives an overview of the social media data analysis program Mozdeh for Windows, and it covers gathering tweets with queries, collecting tweets from one or more users, and searching and filtering the downloaded tweets. This presentation explains how to do these tasks, and there's a separate presentation which is a demonstration of doing the task with Mozdeh. So that goes along with this one. First, we're going to look at collecting tweets with queries in Mozdeh. How to do it in the program. First of all, download the program free from mozdeh.wlv.ac.uk onto any Windows computer and then start it. You'll then be asked to give a name for your project. Every time you collect new tweets in Mozdeh, then you have to start by giving your project a new name. And that name will be associated with all the tweets in your project. In fact, all the tweets will be saved inside a folder with the name that you give your project. Next, you have to enter a set of keyword queries. These are the words that will be sent by Mozdeh to Twitter to match tweets, and then the matching tweets will be downloaded and saved to your computer. Before you start the querying, you should select the language that you want to save the tweets in and match the tweets in. And normally that would be English, assuming that you work in English. But if you work in another language, enter the 2-letter country code of that language, 2-letter language code of that language here. And then third, you need to decide whether you want to do a pilot test, which means 1 minute of data collection effectively. All the queries are submitted to Twitter once and then it stops. Or if you want to do full-scale data collection, in which case click the second option, and then Mozdeh will keep continually downloading tweets until you tell it to stop. So to start with, we'll try the pilot test option and click Start to search Twitter once. This is the pilot test version. After this, you'll be told that you need to log on to Twitter and give Mozdeh permission to gather tweets for you. So click OK, and then Mozdeh will open a web browser. When you sign into your Twitter account on that web browser, you'll be given a pin to show that you've approved the action from Mozdeh. And then copy that pin into the box, the dialog box that Mozdeh gives you, and that gives Mozdeh permission to search the tweets. So click OK to start the data gathering. Once you start the data gathering, the numbers at the top of the window will change, indicating what Mozdeh is doing in a strange code. On the left, it's showing it's sending the query the 14th time for a separate batch of 100 tweets, and on the right it's reporting that it's collected 3,992 tweets so far. If you haven't clicked pilot test, then you'll need to click stop monitoring to stop the collecting of the tweets. Otherwise it will automatically stop after one round of data collection. For this process you might need to wait a couple of minutes for a pilot test. After the data collection is finished, Mozdeh will ask you a few questions about how you want your data to be processed in order to analyze it. It'll ask you a few questions and try and explain the questions each time, and here I'm giving the recommended answers. So I recommend you say yes to filter out duplicate tweets. You don't want to be bogged down by having lots of copies of the same tweet. For example, lots of different retweets of the same tweet. So answer yes for that. And second, it asks you again about language, and pick one of these 3 language groups, and that helps Mozdeh to know how to save the tweets to your computer in the processed version. And then finally click OK, and then Mozdeh will start to process all the tweets and get them ready for you to analyze. That might take a minute or so if you have a pilot test, and it can take hours for full-scale data collection. And before that, it will ask you another question. It will ask you, how do you want to process the tweets in terms of the time period, and I recommend just accepting the default. it suggests, which will be by day for Twitter. Tweet gathered with a query. And then if you click OK, and then when the processing is finished, you get taken to the main search screen. In the main search screen, Mozdeh has finished the data collection and it's got the data ready, the tweets ready, so that you can run analyses on the tweets. So next we're going to have a look at some of the analyses that you can run on the tweets in Mozdeh. So you're going to see the screen at the bottom expanded in a bit to show all the analyses. But first, this screen is showing you where the tweets are saved. So the tweets saved by Mozdeh into a folder which is a subset of your project folder, and they're saved to a plain text file. If you want to read the tweets and you don't want to use any of the Mozdeh processing facilities, you just want a copy of the tweets, then if you open the file and copy it into Excel, then there'll be the tweets, and the information about the tweets will be lined up neatly in columns of Excel or any other spreadsheet. In Mozdeh, if you select View Raw Data from the Analyze menu, it will take you to this folder if you can't find it. And before we go on to the analysis, I just want to mention one very important point that I've glossed over, which is that the queries you enter into Mozdeh are very important. So when you want to run an analysis project, it's very important to spend a lot of time to finding a suitable set of queries for the initial data collection, because it's much more difficult to alter your data after you've collected it than before. So it's worth spending, for a big project, at least a day trying different queries, making sure that the tweets that match those queries are ones that you want and that you haven't forgotten any important queries. So general recommendations are avoid overgeneral terms, because they might get you irrelevant tweets, and lots of pilot testing and retesting to see what kind of data you're getting with your queries until you've got a good set of queries. So experiment with different strategies, and don't be afraid to use a very long list of queries, each of which doesn't get many results, but all of which are very precise in the sense they don't get many false results. This is quite a tricky stage of the project that is worth focusing on and not skimming over. And expect to have to run the analysis multiple times in order to get it right. So record all the steps you've done and record the justification, and if things go wrong you can restart more easily. Second type of data collection that can be done in Twitter, apart from using queries to match tweets, is to download all of the tweets of one or more users. And this you might use for a project where you know whose Twitter accounts you want to follow and you just want to analyze their tweets. For example, it might be all the politicians in Parliament in the UK or another country, or all members of an organisation, or the main accounts of all top British businesses, or something like that, where you have a specified list of Twitter accounts. You can download the tweets from Mozdeh. It's a slightly different procedure. It starts the same. You download Mozdeh, you start it, you enter a project name. So it starts the same, but the difference is that when you get past the entering the project name stage, you need to click the Timelines tab in Mozdeh. It's called either Timelines or Users, and that takes you to a screen where you can enter a list of the usernames of the people whose Twitter accounts you want to download. So here I've entered 4 Twitter usernames, and I'm going to click the Download Timelines button to ask Mozdeh to download all of their tweets. Well, not all of their tweets. It gets the most recent, about 2,000 tweets for each person. And this is slower than the querying. So if you have a large group of people, it might take you a day or so to download all their tweets if for example, you have 1,000 people. But it'll keep going as fast as Twitter allows. Okay, so you've downloaded your tweets either from queries or a set of users. The next stage is to look at your data. And to look at your data, you can try in the main search screen. This is the screen that you're taken to when the data collection is finished. You can try to just look at your tweets. You can click the search button and it'll list them in date order, or you can enter a query term in the top left hand corner and search for all the tweets matching that query. So here I've entered the query Teresa and click search, and all the tweets that are listed contain the word Teresa. So this gives a simple search function to eyeball your data, just read the tweets that you've got. The tweets that match the query are listed underneath the search button, and if you click on a tweet, it gives you a little bit of information about the tweeter and the tweet, the full text of the tweet, the name of the tweeter, the number of retweets for the tweet, and the date of the tweet, approximate date of the tweet on the right. And the default sorting is date ascending, but you can pick a different sort order if you like. So you can have date descending, the most recent first. You can sort them in order of retweet counts, ascending or descending, positive sentiment, negative sentiment, or tweeter name alphabetically in order of tweeter name, a bit of a strange one. And you can also sort them randomly. The final one is a very useful one, the most useful one of all of these really. It uses a random number generator to sort the matching tweets randomly, and this is useful to get an overview of the tweets that you've got and make sure that you're not getting a biased view by looking at just the newest ones or just the oldest ones. So I use the random order much more than all the other options. The other thing that you can do with the tweets in Mozdeh as a simple search and browsing function is to filter them in various different ways. One filter you can use is a gender filter. You can ask to report just the tweets from females or just from males. And if you do that, you enter a gender filter and click the search button, you'll get a list of all the tweets from the gender you've picked. Males and females are the default. If you want non-binary genders, then see me or look at the Mozdeh website for how to get non-binary genders. For males and females, the genders are inferred from the username on Twitter. So someone with a male username would be assumed to be male, and someone with a female username would be assumed to be female based on their first name. And also, if you're dealing with a country that other than the UK, the USA, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, mainly English-speaking countries, then ask me for a list of gendered names for your country. Another filter you can have is sentiment. You can ask for just tweets that are positive or just tweets that are negative. The plus button is a positive sentiment filter. The minus button is a minus sentiment filter. And if you want to clear the filter, click the blank button to the right of 0. A 0 is no sentiment. Mozdeh measures positive and negative sentiment in tweets separately, so you can separately filter for positive and negative. The positive filter gets tweets that have at least moderate positivity and either no negativity or only very mild negativity, for example. When you select a filter, the filter is normally coloured red, just as a reminder to you that the filter continues to be active until you clear it. Another filter is retweet count. You can set a minimum or a maximum number of retweets and then click the search button. So in this filter I've set 10 retweets. I'm asking only for tweets that have been retweeted at least 10 times. And if you look at the first result, that one has 16,867 retweets. So if you're interested in the popularity of tweets, then this tweet filter might be helpful. The number on the right, 562,677, that's the biggest number of retweets in the whole data set. Mozdeh always sets the right hand number to be the largest retweet count that it finds. A more complicated filter is the date filter. The date filter you have to put in the search box. And the date filter consists of a square bracket and then a number and then a space and then another number and then a square bracket. And the two numbers are the numbers of the first and the last date. And where do you get these numbers from? You get these numbers from the first date to show combination box. So in the example here, I've opened up the first date to show combination box, and you can see the date 1 is 10th of March 2020 and date 8 is 17th of March 2020. So this filter is only give me tweets from between the 10th and 17th of March 2020. And it's possible to combine all the filters together if you want. You don't just have to have one filter, and you can also combine them with a query term if you like. So in this query and filters, I'm asking for Mozdeh to show me highly retweeted tweets, at least 100 retweets, that are positive. I've got a positive sentiment filter selected from females. I've selected a female user gender and containing the word racism. I've entered the word racism in the search box. So after clicking the search button, that gives me only 2 hits. And if you look at the second hit in the bottom right hand corner, you can see it's from a female. It's got 191 retweets. It's positive. It's got a positive sentiment, and it contains the word racism. So it does match the filters and the query. An advanced option with the sentiment and the retweets is that Mozdeh will give you an estimate of the average sentiment or average retweet count for all the tweets matching your search. For sentiment, it gives you separate positive and negative average sentiment scores between 1 and 5. 1 is no positive sentiment or negative sentiment, and 5 is very strong. And it also gives you a statistical 95% confidence interval, and you could use that to test, for example, as done here, whether male tweets are more positive or less positive than female tweets. So you can statistically test for gender differences with this, if that's interesting to your project. In this example, male commenters express more positive and negative sentiment, but the difference isn't statistically significant. So in summary, we can collect large numbers of tweets free with Mozdeh during the dates to be researched. Remember, Mozdeh only collects tweets in real time and not in retrospect. The oldest tweet it can collect is a week old, and often you can only collect tweets on the actual day of data collection unless you're collecting tweets from specified users. Once you've downloaded the tweets in Mozdeh, you can search them, sort them by date, retweets, username, or randomly, and you can filter them by gender, retweets, date, and sentiment, including combinations of those and including with a keyword or other query.